Hey everybody, Mr. Black here, and I am pumped. This is lesson number 1, 2, 3. I think it's the 4th, and today I got my trumpet with me. So I'm talking specifically to trumpet players. Today we're gonna go over a few things. Number 1, we're gonna review the first 3 notes. We're gonna learn note number 4 today, and then we're actually gonna learn how to read some of the notes, which we're gonna start using in our book next week. So this is gonna be a really fun lesson. Once I go through everything, as always, I'll give you a challenge at the end, and if you do the challenge, there's a chance you could win the Rancher of the Jolly of the Week. I will let you know who is the winner in our weekly update at the end of this week. So, let's check out all of that stuff. All right, so we want to warm up first. That's the first thing we always want to do with our instruments. We're going to warm up with our mouthpiece. Repeat after me, please. Your turn. Another thing that we're doing is Siren. That's something new that we're doing this week with our mouthpiece. We start low, lips very loose. Sorry, I can't talk. And we're going to go and tighten them up as we go higher, and then start really high and bring them down. Can you do that with me? Here we go. Ready? And go. I think there's something above me. I'm kind of scared. Anyways, that was fantastic. Now we're going to put a whole instrument together. Let's review the first 3 notes. We're going to play C, then D, then E like this. I'll play it first. Play it with me. Ready? And remember, we're keeping the air going the whole time. We're not stopping our air. Our tongue is changing the notes. Let's do that one more time. Ready? And go. Nice work, my friends. Let's jump on now to our new note. Note number 4. Note number 4 on the trumpet is pretty easy. What you're going to do is you're going to take your fingers, your hands put up the right way. You're going to put your first finger down, and that's all it is. Now, you might get this sound first. That's actually a different note. We want note number 4, so it needs to be higher. Think about how high you have to play to get note number 3 out, and then you'll get number 4 out like this. That's the sound we want. Try it with me. Ready? 1, 2, ready. Nice work, my friends. That's note number 4. It's called F on the trumpet. Let's see if we can play 4 of them. Ready? 1, 2, ready. Just like another car alarm. Let's go. 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Let's do it. Here we go. Starting on F, then E, then D, then C. Here we go. 1, 2, ready. And those are the first 4 notes. Let's take a look at my creation on the whiteboard. It wasn't scary, was it? All right, well, this is new to our weekly videos here, but I'm excited. We have our whiteboard. We have me drawing things. Yes, I'm left-handed. Hi, how's it going, all the lefties? Today we're going to do some what I like to call arts and crafts, and by arts and crafts, I'm pretending that I'm Bob Ross. If you don't know who Bob Ross is, you should look up Bob Ross. But we're going to learn some things today. The first thing we're going to do is draw 5 lines. Now, we learned this a while back. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Think back all the way to the very first week of band class, and we learned a game using the staff. This is called the staff. Staff. Look at my beautiful handwriting. Now, we know that elephants got big, dirty feet, and we know face, F-A-C-E. Now, for trumpet, oh, sorry, you can't see that. There we go. There we go. For trumpet, we use something called the treble clef, and it looks like this. Boom, and we know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and we know that for treble clef, E is the first line, G is the second line, B is the third line, D is the 4th line, and F is the 5th line. Now, but trumpets are kind of special because we actually start below the clef on a note that we kind of know but don't know. So let's take a look here. We're going to talk about spaces in a second. Trumpets, let's talk about your note number 1. Note number 1, trumpets, actually appears way down here underneath the first line. And note number 1 we know is called C. And C looks like that. And we know that for trumpet, this is note number 1. So whenever we read a C, we want to play note number 1. Whenever we see this in music, this note means play note number 1. Let's check out note number 2. All right, so now we're taking a look at note number 2. We knew C was note number 1. This is C. right here. Now, we know that for trumpet, that's no fingers down, but that's note number 1. We know that for trumpet, note number 2 is D. Well, D on the treble clef is going to be right here, right underneath that first line. We're going to call this D, and we know that that's note number 2. So we've got C, and we've got D, note number 1, note number 2. And that's right below the 5 lines we call the staff, and it's on the treble clef. That's what that little G cool looking thing is. Now, let's talk about note number 3. Note number 3 is actually something that we know already, because when we played our game back in week 1, this was the first line. So we know that if we wanted to play C, D, E, it would look like this. C, note number 1, D, note number 2, E, note number 3. So we're going to spend some time working on these 3 notes and reading them. Today, you actually learned note number 4, so I'm going to show you where that's at. And believe it or not, that's in our first space on the treble clef. We call that F. And this is note number 4. So we've got C, we've got D, we've got E, and we've got F. Okay, friends, let's play a little game here. I want to know if you can figure out what each note is when I put it on the staff in a different order. Here we go. All right, here we go. We've got our staff again in a different order. We have some notes, and I want you to tell me what the notes are. I'm going to give you 20 seconds, and I'm going to sing terribly the Jeopardy theme song. Da, 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 da. Da 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 da. That was terrible singing, I know, you can tell it was terrible. Let's talk about what these notes are. So if we look at this first note, that appears on our first space of the treble clef on the staff. And we know that the first space is the letter F. So for trumpets, that's note number 4. So let's talk about the next note. This is a little trickier to see, but you can probably tell. D is right below the very first line of our staff. We said E is on the first line of our staff. So what comes before E in the musical alphabet? Okay, A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, it's D. You got it. So D is right here, and we know that that note is D. For trumpet, we know that that's note number 2, also known as your first and third finger down. Let's talk about the next note here. This is what note? We already talked about. The first note on the actual staff here is E, and we know that that is note number 3. Again, just like the musical alphabet, D, E. And we now can look at our next note, which you guys probably know this. By the way, E, first and second finger down is what that note is. The last note we have here is note number 1, also known as C, okay? So I hope you enjoyed your introduction to the staff and our music here and the clef and my awesome arts and crafts drawing. I'll get better as I draw, I promise. Today's challenge is this. If you can, draw for me what notes you think are necessary to play hot cross buns. You'll have to draw a staff, so 5 lines. Don't worry about the treble clef. We can talk about that later. But you need to draw for me the notes in the order that you think we need in order to play hot cross buns. If you can do that and send it to me via email, you might win this week's Rancher of the Jolly Friends. I'll see you next lesson. Goodbye.